Sanwanani Dumelang, good evening and welcome to episode 226 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Kumalo. It's the Wednesday edition of the Private Property Podcast, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, you've certainly missed out 225 episodes, so do make sure that you go back and catch up on all the great episodes that we have had either on our Facebook or on our YouTube page. And to all our regular viewers, welcome back. You know how we do it every single evening at 7 p.m. We have an appointment where we talk about the hottest property topic that helps us navigate our property journey. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are looking to buy, you're looking to sell, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. This is the show that caters to all of your property needs. And of course, you can find us across our social media pages. And not only are you able to do that, but you'll also get a whole host of other shows that you can tune into on our social media platforms. I am talking about the Home Shop show that Chad brings to your screens every Monday and Friday. So if you are on the market for that new property, then do make sure that you tune in to that show. Chad will certainly make that home buying journey just a little bit better. And for all of you at home who've got some green fingers and looking to go into agriculture, then Umbali Noko will be bringing you the farming podcast every Tuesdays and Thursdays right here on the Private Property social media platforms, of course, at 8 p.m. I caught her episode yesterday when she was speaking to somebody at Apsa's agribusiness, and really talking about some of the ways that Apsa is powering farmers and the different ways that you can access that kind of farming if you are interested in working and partnering with Apsa on your farming journey. And of course, you know that as it is a Wednesday, we are also going to be talking to somebody from the Red Bank, so do stay tuned for that conversation. But also, because it's a Wednesday, you can also catch Essie Klassen later this evening as she takes you through the First Time Home Buyers show, where she will be in conversation, and she always is in conversation with somebody who's walked that first time home buying journey. And I know that this evening she's going to be speaking to somebody, the topic is actually quite compelling. It says 4 qualifications later, and this is how Lebogang essentially has transitioned and built his property empire, or certainly property portfolio, because I don't like us calling property empire, property portfolio. So do make sure that you tune into that show later on at 8 p.m. Right here across the Private Property social media pages. Now, the other thing that that we're doing is, of course, running the Sherlock Holmes competition. We have been running it for the past 10 weeks, and 2 more weeks to go until the grand finale. And all you have to do to enter this competition is to go to our website, www.privateproperty.co.za, and let us know where the clue leads you. Now, every single Monday, we share a riddle, and we want you at home to crack that riddle. And, this week's riddle, as I said yesterday, I'm not getting a good sense of where it might be leading you. Perhaps you at home might have a better clue of where it might be leading you. So do make sure that you go to our website to enter. And the riddle for week 10 is, let your imagination go wild with pricing. At this bay where you'd love to camp, 6 gorgeous rooms to fit all your friends, and a flat even this Watson would take. Now, that is the clue for week 10 of the Sherlock Holmes competition. Remember, if you win this one, then you stand a chance. You stand a chance of walking away with a 5,000 Rand voucher on Friday, and it is a Wednesday. One of the things we do on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we make the winner's circle even bigger, where we give away a 500 Rand cash prize to one lucky winner at home. And all you have to do to claim that prize is to be watching us live. So if you've entered the competition, then do make sure you stay until the end of the live where you can claim your prize. Well, this evening we are looking at something that I know a lot of us sometimes struggle with. I've confessed about, how much I struggle with this. It is one of those pain points that I know a lot of us also have issues with all the time, because it's just another line item to our bills, but it's a very important line item that we should never ever ignore, especially when we start looking at cost cutting and what needs to go. We are looking at unpacking the various types of insurance you need for your home with, of course, Apsa. And this evening I'm joined by Natasha, Osman, who's the head of homeowners insurance cover at Apsa Group. Natasha, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Sama. Thank you for having me.
It's only a pleasure, Natasha. I think insurance talks are always those conversations that sometimes people kind of don't want to talk about. It's that thing that you pay for because at the back of your head, you have to do it just in case something happens. I know that more often than not, as times get financially difficult and people try to look at where they can potentially cut their costs, some people contemplate cutting down on their insurance cover. And more often than not, it's because there's just so many kinds of insurance that we have out there that we may potentially, be paying for, from your car insurance, got short-term insurance, sort of long-term insurance, life insurance. Perhaps sort of take us through at a basic level, some of the important, I'd say, types of insurance we need to be mindful of, especially as homeowners.
Sure. So, I think the first thing to note is that there is a difference between the short and the long-term insurance. And sometimes there's a misunderstanding around this, is that the terms relate to the length of time in relation to these products. And that's actually not true. So long-term insurance relates to cover in respect of generally speaking, insuring an individual. Okay. And then short-term insurance relates to the protecting of an individual's assets and things that, belong to them, such as vehicles and contents and a home. And that, in short, gives you, a definition and the difference between what we consider life insurance and what we consider short-term insurance.
Mm-hmm. So, but Natasha, if I'm an individual, perhaps take me through what kind of insurance that I ultimately need, especially if I'm a homeowner, and this is one of those things that I know that I struggle with. Sometimes, I complain to friends saying that I'm overly insured, or I wonder if I should, necessarily pay this kind of insurance. So if you're still a bit confused about which one is an absolute necessity, especially as a homeowner, perhaps take us through the different kinds, whether it's long-term or short-term insurance, that are certainly important for us as an individual who's a homeowner.
Absolutely. So obviously with finance houses and banks specifically, there are requirements that one as a home purchaser is needing to comply with. So in terms of a home loan application, there are certain insurance covers that are required. In terms of life insurance, I'll start there and just give you a brief overview of that, is that with purchasing a home loan, most of the banks require either a credit life policy or a life insurance policy that is ceded to that particular home loan facility. Now, the difference between those two is that credit life insurance is actually offered off the back of the credit facility. So it usually is either offered by the finance house or any other, insurance provider. And credit life is actually linked automatically then to the credit facility. And any payments that are made in terms of a credit life insurance policy are made directly to the credit provider. And it is taken out as security against that credit facility that you've taken. And in terms of the type of cover, it covers you in the case of death, permanent disability, temporary disability, or being retrenched or unable to earn an income according to the insured perils that appear there. And then you have life insurance. Now, life insurance is slightly different because with a life insurance policy, what happens is that a client or a customer would choose what benefit they want. So they would choose the limit of cover, and they would also choose the different benefits that they would like to be covered for instance, death, disability, critical illness, and those sort of things. In terms of that, there are requirements that would need to assess that life insurance policy by the finance house and make sure that it meets the minimum criteria. And that policy will be required to be ceded to the bank in the event of one of those unfortunate events occurring. Then, those policies could pay out against that credit facility. And it's quite important, to give your family peace of mind should something unfortunate occur to you, that, you're not leaving an asset behind to your family that needs to then, continue paying towards it. So it does give you peace of mind that in the event of an unfortunate circumstance, that it actually keeps you covered and pays off the outstanding balance of that home loan. Yeah, so that's from a life insurance perspective.
Natasha, I can already sort of imagine perhaps some customers who may think that, look, I don't want to be paying this additional insurance, especially as somebody who's looking to buy that home loan. do customers have an option to take out any kind of insurance when they apply for a home loan at all, whether it is with financing house? I know you can also get the insurance elsewhere. If you, as you've mentioned, have a life policy, obviously can be with any other financial institution. But does a person at home have the option to not have any kind of insurance whatsoever when they've taken up a home loan?
So these requirements are actually mandatory with the home loan application, and it really is important. It's important to protect you from financial distress should something happen. And it also is important for the bank as well to protect the asset that they are providing credit against. So, certainly life insurance as well as short-term insurance are mandatory requirements for a home loan facility to be offered to a customer.
Natasha, I actually want to find out a little bit more about, and you've mentioned this one because I've heard it on a few occasions, and I know sometimes people have had questions around it. When you opt to, for example, seed your life cover when you're applying for your home loan, what are some of, I'll say, the do's and don'ts in that regard? I mean, some people say, you know what, instead of seeding that cover, just take out the additional insurance. It's not going to be a huge premium more often than not. So that, as you were saying, one of the things with obviously life cover or insurance of this nature is you want to make sure that your family is taken care of. So obviously, if you seed this amount, or if you seed, part of your policy, that would mean first you must cover, whatever you're still owing to your home loan facility. So if people at home wanted to almost, I'll say, figure out whether to seed their policy or perhaps, take out a new insurance policy altogether, what would be just some, I'll say, do's and don'ts, or things that they should just think about to help them make the right decision?
So it's always important to remember that when you're purchasing items, especially an asset, right, because you take a credit facility when you're purchasing an asset, and a home is regarded potentially as the most precious asset that one would buy. It's one of the biggest purchases we make in our lives. So it's always the most important and the key thing is to remember that this is probably one of the biggest purchases you are going to make, and you need to have yourself protected in the event of something unfortunate occurring. With the life insurance policy, obviously it covers the individual in the event of, a critical illness, things like cancer and heart attacks and such are covered by these policies. And where you're unable to work, it can actually help you towards payment. The economic times that we're in right now, and, retrenchment is a reality. And in times like that, it will cover you for a period of time for your installments towards your home loans. So it really is important to make the right choice and understand that, although insurance for the most part could be considered a grudge purchase, it is a necessity. It takes care of you in your times of financial distress, and it places you in a position that you were in prior to that loss. Obviously with a life insurance policy, should something happen to you as the home purchaser, your family is then given the peace of mind that is required. So it's really important in terms of choosing a policy. I mean, that is really up to a customer itself. What is your affordability? Would you prefer the credit life, which then secures you that particular loan? And it is part and parcel of the home loan facility, which then makes it easier. Whereas if you're seeding a life insurance policy, there is a vetting process that one needs to go through to ensure that those policies comply with the minimum requirements, etc. So there's always seamless ways and other ways, but it really is up to the customer. But, my piece of advice would be that it is necessary.
Mm-hmm. I'm this evening in conversation with Natasha Osman, who's the head of Homeowners Insurance Cover at Apsa Group. We're looking at the various types of insurance that you're going to need when you have a home loan. I know that one of the things with insurance is so many of us tend to not want to think about it. I often complained in my 20s that part of being an adult is needing all kinds of insurance cover for all sorts of things that, in our younger years we unfortunately didn't have to think about. But I think as, the older we grow, and certainly when you start having property or even multiple properties, you're going to have to familiarize yourself with these things and make sure that you have a handle on it. Because one of the things that you also do not want is, of course, leaving your family with the burden of having to deal with some of your perhaps finance or your estate in the event where you're not adequately insured. Now, Natasha, we've spoken quite a bit about, I'll say, the personal insurance that one would take up when they themselves are the homeowner. Let's now perhaps focus on the actual asset. So when we now obviously have this asset, what kind of insurance cover are we going to have in place for the property?
Absolutely. So in terms of short-term insurance, homeowners insurance cover comes into play there. And, this covers you for the actual structure of your property. And what homeowners insurance covers you for is the property and its permanent fixtures and fittings. And there are many perils of insurance that are covered within your policy, such as fire and flood, accidental, impact damage, and there are many other perils, bursting and leaking, overflowing of geysers and water pipes, etc. So it is an important policy to have. And again, this insurance policy is a mandatory requirement of the home loan facility, because again, with regards to short-term insurance, you're covering the property itself, safeguarding yourself from financial distress, and also safeguarding the bank who is providing that credit facility to you as a customer.
We are taking your questions and comments at home as we talk all things insurance, especially when you are a homeowner. We've got a question here coming from Facebook. Mutsele Tocha asking, is there insurance that covers tenants?
So there isn't cover that would cover you under your homeowner's insurance for your tenants itself. But what it does is it covers you as the insured. So with the Apsa homeowner's insurance policy, what we do provide you is that in the event that you do have a tenant in your property and there is a loss that occurs as a result of an insured event and proves the property to be uninhabitable, we will cover the insured for the loss of rental that will occur as a result of this tenant now not being able to live in the property for that period of time. So we would cover the tenant themselves. However, we would cover the property owner in terms of the loss of rental of the property.
We've got another question here coming through from Utsepo Mukheti asking, and this one is coming from YouTube, and is asking, if I don't have a life cover policy, can I have a bank loan?
So a bank loan would be a credit facility that you have that you're owing funds on. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to cede towards a home loan facility, because that's also a credit facility as well. So you would require a credit life policy as well, or a life insurance policy. So credit life can be attached off the back of the actual credit facility itself, but a life insurance policy would obviously be a separate installment that you're paying separately, and would then be ceded to the bank. Yeah.
For a question here, back of my head, I can already think of the answer. I'm going to ask it because it raises a very great conversation around how we tend to look at, pricing. And this question is coming from Facebook. Utsepang Asichamane asking, what is the minimum amount of insurance policy does Apsa offer?
So a minimum amount of insurance cover. So if you're taking a credit life insurance, you would obviously be covered for the outstanding balance of the loan, because that is what the credit life insurance would cover you for. With the short-term insurance policy, what would happen is that you'd cover yourself for the full replacement value of your property. Now, keeping in mind that there is a big difference between the market value of your property or what you purchase it for to what the replacement value of that property would be. And replacement value takes into account not only the property itself and all the fixtures and the fittings on the property, including things like paving and walls. You don't necessarily think that things like that are included in a sum insured, but they are, because should an event happen, you've got to replace those items. Swimming pools and things like that do need to be included, as well as the fact that engineering costs, architectural costs, removal of rubble should the entire house burn, in a fire and be uninhabitable. One needs to break down the property to rebuild it. So all of these costs come into play, and a full replacement value is therefore important, so that you ensure that you're not underinsured when a claim occurs. So there isn't really a minimum value that one can take, but it does align to the credit facility and the replacement value of the property.
Now, Natasha, we've been speaking a lot about insurance cover when you have a home loan facility and how, in many ways, that's mandatory. Is some of this insurance that we've been speaking about, insurance that somebody ought to or can take in the event where they don't have a home loan facility? So you probably maybe paid off your home or whatever the case is. Perhaps it's a family home that's now been passed down to you and you're living there as a family. Is this cover still going to be applicable to those at home who don't have the facility itself but have the asset?
Absolutely, Zama. When looking at your finances and your budgets, but insurance gives you peace of mind to know that as long as you're taking care and maintaining your property, that it will be covered in the eventuality of a loss. Burst geysers are something that are very, very, that happen on a daily basis. And we know the kind of damage that it can leave you with. If the geyser bursts and water falls, through the ceilings, into rooms and into the property, there's major damage to your property. Do you have money kept aside, and surplus funds to actually repair those damages and fix the geysers and replace it necessarily? I don't think many people have that available. So paying a small insurance premium on a monthly basis gives you the peace of mind that is required so that you can live in your property, enjoy it. And in the moment of, unfortunate losses occurring, you've got an insurance policy to, place you in the position that you were in prior to that loss.
We're taking more of your questions and comments at Homes. We talk all things insurance with Natasha Osman, who's the head of Homeowners Insurance Cover at Apsa Group. We've got a question on Facebook coming from Ulinati Zimba asking, what is the difference between homeowners and building insurance?
So there actually isn't a difference. It's exactly the same thing. So a lot of people get confused with that. But the building insurance is really insuring the building. We call it homeowners insurance because, as a homeowner, you need to protect your property. And it doesn't only protect you for the building itself. It does extend to things I mentioned earlier, your swimming pool, the boundary walls of your property, paving if you have any in your property and such. So it is a homeowner's policy that covers the property. And, look at a building section of a policy. But when you're looking at the homeowner's policy, it is actually just covering the entire property.
We've got another question here from Facebook coming from Roshan Jalal, who asks, would one be required to undergo medical assessments for a credit life insurance cover as one does for a life cover?
No, that is not necessarily applicable for your credit life insurance policy because that is taken out with your home loan and is applicable merely and specifically for the credit facility that you are applying for.
And another question from Facebook, Rochelle Moller asking, does a bond with Apsa include life cover automatically or does the client need to add that option?
So it is a requirement that the customers must select their insurance policy. In terms of TCF and regulations around insurance, one cannot embed a cover with the offer of a credit facility. So we leave that choice up to the customer to decide whether they'd like to take. And yes, Absa's got an array of products that we offer to our customers, both on the life insurance and the short-term side, but it is really customer choice as to which insurance policy they would like to take.
Now, Natasha, we've spoken quite a bit about insurance and the different kinds of insurance that we'll need, from long to short-term insurance, certainly at an individual level, or of course, for the assets that you would have a home loan facility with, or even credit life insurance. When we then kind of look at how we can best make sure that we are adequately covered and adequately protected, what's the sort of best insurance should we then be opting for, and thinking through what we need covered? Because I can imagine sometimes you're not quite sure how to think through what actually needs to be covered. I mean, we've spoken quite a lot about different kinds of products that are in the market. So how can we make sure that we are best protected and best covered when we need to figure out what exactly needs to be covered and what needs to be separate when taking various insurance products?
So, Zana, it's always important to get good advice. And, in terms of what it is that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a home loan facility, it's important to understand what are the risks that you're exposed to, and what is it that is going to give you the peace of mind should something, unfortunate occur. And that is the basis upon which you would make your decision about what type of insurance you require, in terms of a life policy. And in terms of the short-term insurance policy, it's really important to understand there are many insurers out in the market that offer you the cover, and you have the choice to understand what is the basic cover that you actually need. And now with a homeowner's insurance policy, the basic standard cover is pretty much the same across all insurers. However, you'll find a few differentiators where some of them would have additional benefits, and it's important for you to understand what those are. So home assistance benefit, which, in emergency repairs, those are not necessarily covered by your insurance policy unless it's a valid claim. So it's important to know whether your policy offers a home assistance policy, cover benefit with that for emergency repairs. It's also important to look at certain things such as, load shedding that we experience, which causes power surge. Is that a cover that your insurance would cover you for in the event of a power surge occurring? So things like that are very important for people to look at. And then also the excess structure. Now, excess is the first amount payable when a customer makes a claim against the insurance policy. So like the example I used, when a geyser bursts in your home, we will then send out, a service provider once you've registered your claim. And there is a portion of a claim, which is the first amount payable or the excess that a customer is responsible for paying. And that can vary from insurer to insurer. So it's important to understand not all of the fine print, because it's quite a long document to understand, but to understand the pertinent points that are important to you to understand what is applicable when you find yourself in, an unfortunate loss position. Are you able to afford that first amount payable and, to get the cover that it is that you would then enjoy thereafter?
We're getting quite a lot of questions from our viewers at home. I think, as you were saying earlier, insurance is one of those things that, in as much as we don't want to, think about it or even have it as a line item as one of our expenses, it certainly is one of those things that we have a lot of question marks about. We've got a question here from Facebook coming from Unombulele Kwacha asking, does that mean when you have a home loan, you must have both short-term and life insurance? What if you have life insurance with another institution? Must your life cover you have covered by the same amount as your home loan?
So correct. So you can keep your life insurance policy that you currently have, and then obviously you will share that information with your finance house. And then they will make sure that the life insurance policy that you have in place meets the minimum requirements that are required for that credit facility that they're issuing. And they'll vet that. And provided that meets those requirements, you could see that policy then.
Another question here coming from, also from Facebook, it's coming from Rose Swan, is asking, what happens to credit insurance after, this is what happens when phones lock. So she asked, what happens to credit insurance after after you have paid off the mortgage? Can I claim it? And if so, what is the procedure?
So with credit insurance and short-term insurance, right, the same principle applies. It's a risk insurance. So you're paying the premium in the event of an insured event occurring. So if an insured event does not occur, you've paid that premium for the period that you have been insured. But if an insured event does occur, then we would pay out a claim against that particular policy. So there isn't a lump sum payout at the end of the term. It purely is a risk cover for the period that you're covered for.
And a similar question coming from Philip Evans on Facebook. Does the insurance cover end when the bond is paid up?
Correct. So with Absa, we're able to offer a seamless process for customers. So you're able to take out your insurance policy through the home loan sale process. You're able to select to have your premium deducted from your bond account, which makes it, very, very seamless and easy for you. Once the bond facility ends, obviously Apsa will make contact with you prior to that to offer you a standalone policy, which will then deduct via debit order via your bank account. But in the event that the policy is not a credit life insurance policy, which is, obviously attached to the bond, or separate, at the end of the term, that policy will cancel, but your life insurance policy will continue. And if you've ceded it, obviously that ceded portion will fall away because you don't have an outstanding debt to the finance house.
We've got another great question here. It's coming from YouTube. Utepo Mokhete asking, can you use the same life cover policy for multiple home loans? So for your second or third house?
So it depends on the value of that life insurance policy. So if the value of that policy is sufficient to cover the credit facility for many properties, then absolutely you may. But if it is not sufficient from a value perspective, then unfortunately you would have to take up more policy.
Now, Natasha, I think as we begin to wrap up, I can already see we're probably going to have to bring you back for insurance matters. I see a lot of us at home have quite a number of questions when it comes to our insurance need. I think to just close off, how do we then best assess, as I was asking you earlier, if we are adequately covered? Who do we almost speak to have a sit down to get a sense of this is, these are my responsibilities, this is where I financially am, and what products will best suit where my lifestyle is right now and perhaps where my lifestyle may potentially be in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I can speak on behalf of Apsa, and obviously through the processes that we have in place to make it seamless and easy for our customers. We obviously have integrated processes, and we do have insurance people that are qualified to give advice, and we have our call center numbers where it's very easy for to call us up and get the advice that they need. The home loans consultant will assist and ask you if you have, property insurance, but it is best to speak to the insurer directly because they are qualified from a phase perspective to actually give you advice with regards to what it is that you require. And it's important to get the correct advice so that you understand what is the replacement value of my property. Why is it important for me to have this cover? What am I covered for? What is my responsibility and what is the responsibility of the insurer? Because you as the property owner do have some responsibilities, maintaining your property, ensuring that there isn't wear and tear that's occurring that could result in a loss. Because remember, an insurance policy would cover you for a sudden unforeseen loss that may happen. So it's very important that we understand what is our duties as insureds or property owners and what is the responsibility of the insurer. And that's important to understand. So, if anyone is wanting to ask any questions, just give us a call on the call center number or call the insurer directly and ask the questions that you need. And they will definitely answer and set your mind at ease.
Well, Natasha, that's a great place to leave it this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Zama. It's been a pleasure.
And that is Natasha Osman, who's the head of Homeowners Insurance Cover at Absa Group. Well, it's a Wednesday, so you know that we will be giving away 500 Rand in cash. We're going to go for a short break. Do make sure you stay on the line, especially if you've entered the Sherlock competition, because you're going to have to let us know if you are, in fact, watching us in the event that we call your name. We're going to be back just after this. Welcome back to episode 226 of the Private Property Podcast. Your host, Osman. Well, it's a Wednesday and we are giving away 500 Rand in cash to one lucky viewer And all you have to do to claim your prize is if we call your name, send us a message down here below. Now, the potential lucky winner of the 500 Rand cash prize this evening goes to Keenan McLallen. I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly. So that's Keenan McLallen. You are potentially the lucky winner of that 500 Rand in cash. If you are on the live, do drop a message down here below and you will be able to get your 500 Rands in cash. Now, if you want to be like Keenan, all you have to do is to enter the Sherlock Holmes competition. Of course, go to our website on www.privateproperty.co.za and let us know where the clue leads you. And you can stand a chance of walking away with 500 Rand in cash every Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, every single Friday, we then make things even better by going a step further and giving away that 5,000 Rand voucher. I see they're saying that he's on the live. Keenan is in fact on the live. So congratulations to Keenan McLaren. As I said, I'm really sorry for butchering your surname there. You get to walk away with that 500 Rand in cash. My colleague has let me know. And there she is. Thank you very much there, Keenan. And of course, that then wraps up our show this evening. Thank you so much for watching us. And of course, do continue entering the Sherlock Holmes competition on our website and keeping reach to our social media pages. Well, it's a Wednesday, so do not be alone. Esther Clausen will be bringing you the First Time Home Buyers show at 8 p.m. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.
Hi, I'm Jared Siegel. I'm a local restaurateur and the owner of Jared's Espresso Bar and Eatery in Sea Point. I'm a Cape Town local, Camps Bay born and bred, and I've been living in Sydney, Australia for the last few years. Living abroad, I've always been drawn to the mother city, and I've recently decided to come back home. Taking lifestyle factors into consideration, Bantry Bay has been the perfect fit for me. Living on the Atlantic seaboard really resonates with what I'm all about. From the active lifestyle, the amazing food culture, its family-friendly environment, and amazing natural beauty, the quality of life we have on offer is really unique. The Atlantic seaboard has some of the most beautiful suburbs in the country. With areas like Camps Bay and its world-renowned beach culture and the recent refurbishment of Sea Point Promenade, it's no wonder our neighborhood has such a global appeal. After a long day of hard work, there's nothing better than taking a walk along Clifton Beach, sharing a moment and watching the sunset. Trying to offer something authentic to the community, I'm not about reinventing the wheel, just doing the classics really well. And this is my neighborhood.